Hello, and welcome to the Iaconian Archives. I am the archivist, your host and reader. In this episode, I will be sharing an excerpt from How to Say Oh Primus Properly, written by Red Frere the Small, a saucy tale of becoming Prime and becoming very acquainted with Primus from the Transformers G1 continuity. So pour yourself a glass of Enjex, get comfortable at your console or in your berth, close your optics, and let's enter the archives. Hot Rod was going to purge. There was no avoiding it. He was going to be sick all over his stupid white and golden robes and purge all over the feet of the priest in front of him. His tanks kept rolling in his abdomen, and his fuel pump was going a mile a minute in his chest. He was dizzy, overly warm, he had a helmache, and it was just the very beginning of this long and ceremonial day. He still had joining the Matrix to his chest to look forward to. Oh, and his wedding to a god. The god. Primus. Literally. He was going to purge. He looked up at the priest droning on and on about honor, duty, and servitude in front of him, and he felt his hands shake where they were clenched together before him while he knelt on Primus's altar. Somewhere, circling around him, was a camera broadcasting the event to the whole of Cybertron, and just a few steps behind him was Ultra Magnus and his team. He hoped that they weren't thinking the same thing he was. At least one of them had to be keeping their nerve, and it certainly wasn't going to be him. He wanted to chance a glance back, just to see if they were as hesitant about this whole thing as he was when he heard the priest clear his throat. He swept his optics back up in a hurry, going a bit pale at the harsh stare the priest was giving him. A sword laid in the priest's hands, and Hot Rod realized that this was the participation portion of the ceremony. He tried not to look like he was scrambling as he quickly hopped to his feet, but the glare the priest shot him after he was on his feet was telling him that he hadn't been very successful. Still, he accepted the heavy blade and didn't drop it as he turned the blade up in one hand. At least he didn't cut off anyone's hand, this time. Boy, that had been embarrassing during the rehearsal. He still felt bad about it. Maybe once he was Prime, he could send the priest a box of Energon treats. That'd make up for it, right? The priest was coughing at him again. Hot Rod gave a jolt of attention and ducked his head a little in embarrassment as he accepted the shield the priest was handing out to him. He hefted it up, feeling more than a little weighed down, and then turned, very carefully, around. Stretched out before him, by what seemed like miles, was the entire procession of mechs who had come to see his ascension. Hot Rod could feel his knees wobble at the sight. He gambled a look down toward Ultra Magnus, who gave him a reassuring thumbs up from where the priests weren't liable to see. Hot Rod swallowed despite his dry mouth and did his best to steady himself. If Ultra Magnus believed in him, he couldn't be too bad at this, right? Somehow, he managed to make it through the rest of the long, droning speeches and recitations from the Covenant of Primus. He was even fairly proud when he managed to turn, drop to his knees, and properly lower the sword and shield he was carrying, without tripping. And then came the truly scary part. The priest reached out and placed a hand upon his chest plates, drawing a line down the center with a generous smear of holy oil. Hot Rod quaked where he sat on his knees, then stuttering as his chest plates parted and bared his spark for all and sundry to see. He'd never felt so exposed and naked before in the entirety of his creation. He could tell more than a few of the bots surrounding him were looking at his bared chamber with heated glances, like he was some sort of spread in the latest issue of Undercarriage. All of Hot Rod's attention was on the head priest, however, and the matrix he held aloft in his hands. He shivered, and his grip tightened on the relics he was holding on to as it was slowly lowered. When the matrix began to slot into his spark chamber, the center of it spiraled open to draw in his very essence. He felt a pull, and then the world went white, or at least his vision did. You can find this story posted in its entirety at archiveofourown.org, along with nearly 40,000 original Transformers transformative works. Give it a read and let the author know what you thought. Comments and kudos encourage authors to keep producing their art. Please subscribe to this channel and you'll know when new videos are posted. As always, comments and suggestions are welcome below. If you would like to suggest a story or a selection from a longer fanfic for reading here on the Iaconian Archives, please view our video from the archivist suggesting content, and you could hear me read some of your favorite Transformers fanfiction. From tonight's author and myself, thank you for your time and support.